Okay, folks. I screwed up. I did the intro and forgot to go live. Shit happens. That's what happens sometimes. But, folks, we are talking about the immortal icon woman who is Betty White. And since I screwed it up, I'm going to reintroduce my co hosts. I am in Big Geek, in Big Geeks Let's Talk. And we have another strong one, passionate geek. She will mop the floor with you if you try to beat her on history. Alyssa AVP!
Hi, everyone.
And then we have her boyfriend. She lives in Maryland. He lives in California. But you know what? Love knows no boundaries. We have the man who makes Twitter trolls cry and mops the floors with their tears. Jack Bears!
Glad to be here.
Now, it's so funny because I did all that and we weren't even live yet, and I forgot to hit the live button.
It's good.
So,
it's all good.
As you all know, 2021 decided to be a dick and take Betty White from us. At the age of 99, I think it was 17 days from her 100th birthday, which I think most of us all thought she would make. And something I want to say about Betty White, everybody asks me what I'm doing for the new year, and I'm like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They go, are you going to watch the ball drop? And I'm like, no Dick Clark, no sale. It's just like, I can't watch the ball drop without Dick Clark. That's what I grew up on. And Betty White is, I think people don't realize how much of an influence she had on both radio, because that's where she started out as, and then in film, in TV. I was reading up that she had literally 3 Betty White shows. It's crazy. So, Alicia, I know you're the big one who always has the history references. So, why don't you start us out?
Okay, so Betty White, I'm going to start with her latter life, but I have a lot of it to cover, so Jack will do the rest. But basically, she was from Oak Parks, Illinois, and she was an only child. And her father was an electrical engineer, her mother was a homemaker. And she wanted to be a forest ranger at one point, but they said nope.
Yes, I did read that.
Yes. And she said nope.
Yeah, remember, also, I read up during the Depression, her dad was the one who did, like, telephone things or did it.
Yes.
He built radios and then traded them.
Yes, he built radios. But when he couldn't, people couldn't pay for them, they did what people did back during the Depression, which was barter.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, please continue. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yes, so, I remember she wanted to be a park ranger, but unfortunately, at that time, women weren't allowed to be park rangers.
Correct. So she turned her attention from the forest ranger kind of bit and went into the writing aspect of life. And she basically composed her graduation play from her grammar school, and then she began jobs on stage, and then radio, as you mentioned earlier, and then it led into television later on. In her latter life, she seemed to enjoy things like crossword puzzles, card games, watching animal documentaries, Jeopardy, sports, especially golf tournament. One of her favorite things to drink. Yes.
I did not know she was a golf fan.
Surprise.
That I missed.
Yes. Some of her favorite things were her vodka cocktails with a citrus splish. Her favorite documentary was My Octopus Teacher. Her favorite thing to eat was peanut butter and bologna sandwiches with lettuce on white bread. She actually earned a Guinness. She earned a Guinness World Record in 2018 because of her work on television.
Yes, she was considered in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest working person, a female person, not just male or female person.
Exactly.
Working in film or any of that media. I mean, she was 99 years old and she did it for 9 decades.
Yes. Yep. And during that 9 decades, she received 8 Emmys. She actually volunteered for the American Women's Voluntary Service during World War II, where
Yes.
she drove a PX truck.
Yep, you saw that. You saw the same thing. Yes, you know, my wife asked me about that. We were talking. She's like, "Did Betty White serve?" And it's like, yes, she served in the U.S. Women's Auxiliary Corps.
Yes.
And you know, one of the things that made her, you know, that makes her a hero in my book in a lot of ways, because she did what needed to be done. I mean, she really had that. You know, she was like, I've got to do my part. And she took a break from things to do that, which is what a lot of celebrities did back then. I mean, you look at a lot of the male actors. We forget that so many of the female actors volunteered in their own right and put their careers on hold for the, well, for lack of a better term, the greater good of America. You know, anyway, please continue. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So she was also offered an anchor job for the Today Show, believe it or not. But she didn't want to settle down permanently in New York. But that position later went to Barbara Walters. So if we ever saw the Today Show, imagine that as Betty White. That was originally supposed to be Betty's job. But Betty said, nope, I don't want that job.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Betty pretty much stayed in, I mean, other than jobs, she stayed in California.
Yes, she did.
Because I know she was born in Illinois, but after she was about a year old, they moved to California. And I mean, understandably, at the time, unfortunately, Jack lives in current California, but there was a time when California was the gold standard for America.
Yes. Exactly. So her character of Rose, believe it or not, appeared on 4 different series. We see her in Golden Girls, The Golden Palace, Empty Nest, and Nurses. So that character went on 4 shows, not just one. And she was the oldest person to ever host SNL at 88 years of age. And this one, I was actually surprised to find out that her mom and Lucille Ball's mothers, both of their moms, were best friends with each other at one point, believe it or not.
I didn't know that one. I do know that the SNL, the whole thing was, there was a campaign ad to get Betty White on SNL. And she was like, you know, one thing when I was watching so much of Betty White, you know, get her Lifetime Achievement Award, get her award, she never stopped being humble.
Yes.
She was like, I should be thanking you all, not you thanking me. I mean, she really understood that what she was doing was, it was like, you know, she had this way about her, was like, I'm doing this and you all love me and I'm thank you for it because it's amazing you love me. I mean, there's a humbling in that aspect to where, did you know, sorry, Alicia, I know I'm interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
Did you know that she was actually the oldest of all the Golden Girls?
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. And she was originally supposed to
Sophia.
Yes, and she was originally supposed to do the part of Blanche's character.
Yes, I did read that.
So yes, she was going to do B. Arthur's role, but they switched and said, nope, let's make this one, that one. So yes.
It was such, when I first remember Betty White, for me, was actually not Golden Girls.
Okay.
It was actually, and I'm going to let you finish, obviously, after this. But my first experience of her was actually Mama's Family.
Oh, yes. That's right. That's right. Yeah, she was the ditzy neighbor. Yes, I do remember that.
No. She was the favorite daughter of Mama. She was Mama's favorite daughter. Remember, in those first few episodes, those first 2 seasons, you had Eunice, who was Carol Burnett.
Right.
Which I did not even realize until I was diving into this. that Mama's Family was actually a skit on Carol Burnett before it actually became its own show. Yes. And the only reason, and you have the character who played Blanche also in Mama's Family. What happened was the show got canceled and then was brought back, but both the character who played Blanche and Betty White were now on, guess what? Yeah. The little crazy show with a bunch of old women called what was it? Oh, I don't remember. Golden Girls. That was the one.
Yes, exactly.
By the way, I put some pictures up on our little group Twitter thing. If you want to, like, with the intention of maybe posting them and stuff like that, because she went. I mean, she was such really beautiful, like as she was when she was young.
She was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of what you got posted here. Actually, let's go ahead and show some of this stuff. Why not?
Sure.
Let me close out some of these other. I got so many fucking browsers open at the moment. I was talking to my mother. Here we go. Here they go. Let's go through and look at these. If I can share the screen. Oh, good. I got to get back in the StreamYard. Dumbass. Window. Chrome tab. Jeez, I still have this much open. Here we go. There you go.
Yes. Betty.
Yeah, I mean, now let's go through some of the other ones. Here we go. Another one of Betty White.
That's 1939.
You know,
she still has that
something...
icon hair. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. There is something I was telling my daughter. Oh, look at that. Look at that class. This is not, this is one of those things I made a comment about when I saw this TikTok video about when I did my, what was it? My comedic standpoint, where I was doing St. Kittison. Whereas you have a man normally look at the camera and the woman looks at him. And, I remember commenting on that. And I was like, that is a classic picture. And this just shows it right there.
Right.
That classic, the woman looking at the husband looking at the camera, or the boyfriend. This is how it really has always played out. And I remember giving a lot of shit about this this person on TikTok who was like, oh, the woman's looking at him and he's looking at the camera. It's like, yeah, no shit, you dumbass.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, one of the things was, she is considered the first lady of film. And rightly so. All right. I'm sorry, Lisa.
No, you're fine. I mean, that's basically all my notes. But basically, yes, like you said, she did a lot of TV shows. I first was exposed to her probably on Golden Girls, Mama's Family. Me and Way, I got introduced to her game shows. I mean, she was an icon of television.
She won an Emmy for a game show that was called Men.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how is that not funny as hell? How did we not know that? She was given an Emmy for doing hosting a TV show called basically about men. Yes. I don't remember the exact title, but it was a men thing. Mm-hmm. And she won an Emmy for that, and rightly so.
Oh, yeah. And she loved her husband very much, Alan. I mean, people kept saying, are you going to remarry? Are you going to remarry? And I love her philosophy. She says, I got the best. Why do I want to marry the rest?
I did not catch that one. I know her She was married several times, divorced,
Yes.
I think, twice,
Yes.
and then her third husband passed away.
Yes. He was
And
the
she
host of
never
Password.
married.
Nope.
Yeah, and she never married again.
Nope.
Right.
And I mean, when you think about it, I'm going to be the first one to admit. I'll be the first one to say, however it goes, if my wife passes first, it's going to be like, that's it. There's nothing left for me. Uh, I've got the best I'm ever going to get. Why would I want to choose something else? And that's a great thing. Uh, what about you, Jack? What do you, since Alicia has kind of already said her thought, what are your thoughts on Betty White and your
Well,
experience?
you got like what always trips me out. Like my grandmother. She was just 2 years older than her, and she was born in 1920, and she passed at 97. But when you look at the entirety of her life, everything that she lived through, it's basically the same. They lived through the Great Depression. They lived
Yep.
through the both world wars. They lived through the Cold War. They lived through the technological era. That's a lot. That's a long way to go. And when you're in a business for more than 30 years, then that is an achievement. Um,
One of the
much
one of
much
the
less
things
80 years.
one of the things I found very interesting was how Golden Girls really, you know, handled the LBG community
Hmm.
in a certain way. Now I'm saying LBG because I don't think the T was there at the time, the T or the Q. But the point was, I was reading where she said there were gay clubs that would shut down the dancing and everything to watch Golden Girls, and they would start the dancing back up afterwards. That's how impactful that show was for them.
Right. And when she was born into a much different world than the world that she like left. Um, the year that she was born, Warren G. Hardy was president, and he actually introduced the first radio into the White House that year. And then later that year, he made his first speech on the radio. He's like the first president to make a speech on the radio. Um, Yankee Stadium was being constructed that year. Um, the very first aircraft carrier, the USS Langley, was commissioned that year. And it. By the way, if you ever see it like a model of this carrier, it looks so awkward. It's just like this. They took a normal looking ship and put like a large platform on it. Um, in Egypt, Howard Carter and his team discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun that year.
Ah,
The the,
King's
the
Hat,
British
folks.
the British Empire was still around, and the BBC had just started radio service.
well,
That
she
that
was
is
around for
that that is the world that she was born into.
yeah, but look at the world she left behind for us. I mean, I mean, she had many great areas, and I think most people forget sometimes. And even I didn't know this because I've never watched this show.
Uh huh.
I've never watched the Mary Tyler Moore, which was one of her breakout roles. I mean, not
That's
her
where I was
breakout
introduced
role,
to
but
her.
yeah,
Nick at
I
Night.
was introduced to her from Mama's Family and then Golden Girls. I have never seen Mary Tyler Moore, and I've never seen a lot of her other stuff. But do you know she had the Betty White show, and it had
Yeah.
three three iterations of it.
Hmm.
And I mean, what do you say about that when you're a woman who's gotten three shows named after you?
I mean, you have to understand how hard she was working in the 50s when she started. Like, because she after the World War, she actually like when the war ended, like Hollywood was different because now they were starting to compete with television.
Yep.
right? The top 8 studios were being sued for antitrust laws, and the outcome of that lawsuit was they had to disown their theater. So movie studios used to own the theaters and distribute their movies like that. Suddenly the courts were like, no, the movie theater is a separate business. It's being monopolized. So we're going to, movie studios can no longer own theaters. So suddenly movies were starting to struggle. And television was picking up. And Betty actually picked up on she actually started by going to movie studios and trying to see if she can find work there. And they were like, you're not photogenic enough. That's what they told her.
Oh no.
They told her she was not photogenic enough. So she did the next natural thing. She went into radio. Her first actual radio performance was as an 8-year-old.
Yep. That's why she was in for 9 decades.
Yeah.
Because she did radio and TV and film. I mean, that's why Guinness has her down as, in 2018, as, the longest running person in the media. I mean, person, not woman. Person, right. Period.
Right.
I mean, she was just a hell of a trailblazer. And one of the great things, I honestly don't think I've ever heard in the media, in any way, shape, or form, an unkind word said about her. She has always been. Yeah, I mean, I can't recall ever hearing an unkind word about Betty White. I mean, she just, something about the way she did things. I was watching an interview with her and Joy Reid before Joy Reid joined The View. And by the way, I can't stand Joy Reid. But, when she talked about the whole thing with the LGBT community, she said, it's none of my business. This is private. Why should I care? And it was like, exactly. That was the way we used to take sexuality, was, I don't care what you do behind the doors. That's none of my business. Whereas now it's, you have all these people come out and they are like, oh, look at me. Look how great I am. What? Because you like to fuck a certain person? I remember when she said she didn't even realize, when I was watching that Joy Reid, Betty White interview, it's like, she said, we didn't even realize Liberace was gay back then. And she loved Liberace. And she was like, well, yes, now I know. But, back then we didn't, I mean, Liberace was a very, Liberace had that very flamboyant kind of thing about him, which we now see a lot of times, I guess, in the gay community. But I don't necessarily agree with that, because I've seen plenty of straight flamboyance in my life. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, she never really, I never heard her say an unkind word about another person. I know she said she had issues with B. Arthur, and she said she didn't understand why, because she always thought the world of B. Arthur. But if I had to guess, I'm going to go with personality differences. Just as simple as that. B. Arthur was a different person than Betty White was, and they just had differences. And B. Arthur just did not. I don't know. I mean, could you imagine being on? I mean, look at us. If we were on the stage with Betty White at any point in time, wouldn't you just want to drop to your knees and be a little weak? Be like, oh my God, I'm on stage with Betty White. This is a. I would be happy with that. But I think maybe B. Arthur, because that's the only person I've ever heard that had an issue. I think it was just a personality complex. Yeah, I don't think anything more than that. But still, Betty White, she's like, look, B. Arthur had a problem with me, I never really understood it, but I thought the world of her. I mean, that is, just personality of the way that's just who she was.
Yeah, I agree. And she was, and so like, what happened, like before the SNL thing, I think she was in a Super Bowl commercial.
Yes.
Yes, that was the commercial that brought her back.
Yeah. She had a little bit of a lull for a while, and then she was in that. I think it was a Snickers commercial.
It was.
It was the Snickers
okay.
commercial.
Yeah.
It was
And
the Snickers. It was they were playing. It was super commercial. They were playing football. Regular old school football. He's like, "You're playing by Betty White." It's not what your girlfriend said. I mean, I remember that commercial so well. And I don't even watch football. I don't even like football, but I watched the commercials back then. And
Right.
I remember when that Betty White commercial came out, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Betty White!"
Imagine, like living through those times, and then like, noticing this woman on television. And then, like she gets her big break on Mary Tyler Moore, and then you follow her through the Golden Girls and everything. And then nothing for like 20 years, and suddenly she's in this commercial.
Yes.
Yes. That commercial, and then of course, and I haven't seen the show, but I do know about it. Hot in Cleveland. I did watch the pilot. I did watch a little bit of the pilot, and what I found out was originally Betty White was only supposed to be in the pilot, but she was so popular, they were like, "We've got to keep her in this series."
There, I did realize there was a conflict, with her first show. Well, her first Betty White show. There's a reason why it didn't last very long.
Yep, and I was going to bring that up, but go ahead.
Okay, so it was originally, I can't remember the original
it was kind
station.
of like a talk show host kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't remember the original station, but it was picked up by NBC, right? And NBC is a national station, so suddenly the South was like, "Well, we're going to boycott you, NBC, because we don't like this black tap dancer on this Betty White show."
And
so
what did she say?
Her quote, hold on. Her response was, "I'm sorry, but he stays. Live with it." And then he gives him more screen time.
Yes, she did. Yes, I read it. I actually read when I was doing my research that that gentleman, the black tap dancer singer, I can't think of his name.
His name is Eddie Albert.
Eddie Albert.
No, not Eddie Albert. Arthur Duncan. Sorry.
Okay. He credited. I was watching an interview. He credits Betty White for getting him on, TV.
Good.
And really helping his career. And Betty White managed to look past color and sex. She's like, I don't give a shit about the stuff. I just want good, and I mean, when they told her, the Southern broadcasters, which were heavily Democrat back then, yes, sorry folks, got bad news for you. The South used to be run by Democrats. Deal with it. They said, we're going to boycott. And she's like, okay, I'm just going to give more fucking time on the goddamn screen. Basically. And you know what? It cost the show, but you know what? She did. She was one of those people who did what she thought was the right thing and damned the torpedoes.
Oh, yeah. And at a time when, the civil rights movement was just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. 1953 is the year my dad was born. And that's the year that happened.
Yeah, my dad was born 10 years later.
My dad was born 10 years earlier before Jack's dad, so 43.
So your dad was born in 43, his was 53, mine in, gosh, I think mine was 22. Well, then again, let's see, I'm 42. My dad was 18 when I was born. Do the math. Do the subtraction. Take 42 minus 18. You can kind of take 1979 minus 18, you could figure out where I was at, where I was born. Not that we like each other very much.
Yeah.
Well, my father likes me. I don't like him, but that's a different story.
Right.
But I mean, she pioneered. I mean, she is considered, and I didn't even know this because I'd never heard it. Uh, the first lady of television, like I put in here. And I mean, every time I ever saw her when I was doing the research for this, every award she got, she was the most humble person. And she was like, I thought, when she got her Lifetime Achievement Award at whatever that was, she's like, I should be thanking you guys. And I'm like, wow, what a humble human being.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. She worked really hard, in the 50s and 60s, and then even into the 70s. Just nonstop television. She would fly across the country to be on Password, which is where she met her husband. Yeah.
Oh yeah. She was with him everywhere.
Hello,
Hey,
Jeffy. Nice to meet you. Happy New Year. Betty White really did. I think that when we see this day and age now, we need strong women. We need this, we all kind of talk and sometimes go back to the 60s as late as we do to show people strong women. But, when it comes to a strong woman, go back to the fucking 20s. I mean, Betty White, I mean, she was supportive of getting rid of the idea of segregation. She was like, she risked her own show that got canceled because she knew she was doing the right thing. When she was asked about, the LGBTQ community, she's like, I don't care what you do behind, she made it very clear. This is very private. This is personal. And yes, it is. Because love is a very personal, private thing. I mean, I know you two guys pretty well, but it's not like I ask you guys, personal questions that are outside my business.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree. It's none of my goddamn business. What happens behind closed doors ain't none of my business. And she just managed to say those things in a way that, I don't think even the most angriest person could not understand. And yes, she was a hero because she served the Women's Auxiliary Corps. Betty White was the Mae West of our generation. Okay, do you guys? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with who Mae West is.
Classic actress from the 20s.
Mm.
I'll have to look her up.
She was an icon. She basically pioneered for women to be lead characters, that it's okay to be a lead and be a strong woman. She was basically like Betty in many ways.
Oh, really? I'm going to have to look her up because I'm not familiar with that name. But yeah, you're right. Betty White probably wasn't the first woman, but she was the one who kind of, I guess, had the staying power, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, she got through. I mean, she was on Mary Tyler Moore. She was on Carol Burnett. She was on Mom's Family. She was on Golden Girls. She was on, what was that one? Hot in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, that whole Snickers commercial, I really think just kind of everybody's like, oh my God, it's Betty White. And I mean, how can you not love Betty White?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, like I said, I was watching that. I watched a little bit of the first episode of Hot in Cleveland when I found out originally Betty White was only supposed to be in the first episode, but they realized we can't get rid of Betty White. And I mean, it's so funny because you have Betty White being like, you have the British like, do I smell pot? Are you a cop? No. Then what's the business of yours?
Right.
But one of the things, though, is if you really think about it with Betty White, take Mary Tyler Moore, take the Carol Burnett Show, take Mom's Family, take Golden Girls, and then take Hot in Cleveland. She had range. I mean, shit, she did rap videos for fuck's sake.
She could actually sing too.
Yes.
Yes, that was something my wife and I talked about was, back in her day, to be an actor, you had to know how to sing, you had to know how to dance, you had to know how to act. You had to have all three of those games, kind of like basically a play.
That's called a triple threat, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. If you can do all three, then you can definitely succeed.
And if you're a bombshell, that you'll succeed even more.
That'll help. Yeah, looking good helps.
But one of the things I noticed from that is when you have the singing, the dancing, and the acting, that comes from theater. That doesn't come from acting anymore. We used to see that a lot. And when we look at old movies, as we've done through history of film, and we haven't really talked about it, but the singing, the dancing, the music, the acting, you had to have all three of the gambits to be able to be a fucking actor for a long time. And she knew how to do it. But not only did she know how to do it, she knew how to stand her ground. I mean, think about how many, and Alicia, I mean, think about how many women from that time frame stood their ground like Betty White would have. I mean, how many women would have had, I mean, think about this. How many women with your own show, with your name on it, you're being told, hey, get rid of the black man or we're going to boycott you and you're getting canceled. And she's like, go ahead. I mean, that is about as strong as you get because she held by her convictions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the way I am, too, saying if you like me, you don't. Okay? If you do, you don't. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Who cares? I don't give a crap.
She was the Craig Ferguson of late shows. I didn't watch a lot of late shows, so I am really out of that loop. Remember how many times she was on Letterman? I watched a really fun one with her and Carson, and Carson brought out the vodka because she mentioned vodka.
Yeah, and I know there's an interview with her and David Letterman, but David Letterman was taken was replacing.
Maybe it was Letterman. Maybe I'm wrong. It might have been Letterman, not Carson.
Like he was taking his place for the day or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might have been Letterman versus Carson. I could be wrong, but I remember, when I was doing my research, she talks about. Apparently, she had a very taste for vodka, which I can respect. As a vodka.
Yeah, that was one of her favorite drinks. The vodka cocktails with a Searcher's twist. So yes.
Could you imagine her as being in a Bond movie? I mean, not a Bond girl, but a Bond movie. Being, I'm just saying, her and Sean Connery. And Sean Connery just being in a bar together. And her going, martini, shaken, no, vodka with a twist. I mean, it's just as a cameo, that would have been awesome.
Maybe as M.
Yeah, as M.
Oh shit! Betty White is M. Oh, she would have been a great M.
She would have. She would have.
I agree, hands down. Yes, recipe Betty White. I agree. I think she would have been a great M. Um, Now, do you think she would have been a better M for the Sean Connery era or the Roger Moore?
I think the Roger Moore era.
Roger Moore.
I would agree. Roger Moore era. I would agree. Okay, so we're in agreement with that. Yeah. Um, I mean, we can talk about the guy who was in between, but he only did the one episode or the one movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton.
No, that wasn't Timothy Dalton. He came way later.
Oh, right.
We're talking about George. No, you're thinking George Lazenby. You're thinking George Lazenby.
That's what I'm thinking. George Lazenby.
Yeah, I was drawing a brain fart on him too, but I was like, I know his name. I know all the goddamn Bond names.
Right.
I was like, why can't I remember the guy in between? Oh my God, her as M during Roger Moore's era. Whew.
I know, just before Judi Dench took over. Yeah.
That would be an interesting thing. But like I said, she had 9 decades. She had an incredible career.
Nosferatu. I forgot to say this. Nosferatu actually premiered in Germany the year she was born as well.
Wow.
The original silent film that we all know and love.
The one that got sued into almost being extinct.
Oblivion?
Yeah.
Yeah. The future Dracula.
Hey, Nosferatu had oh my God. Oh, we could talk about Nosferatu for probably an hour. Maybe we should sometime.
We already did.
I know we did. No, we talked about Dracula. We barely touched on Nosferatu. I think, I actually always do enjoy the remake that was made in the 70s. I thought it was very true to the original. Betty had 3 shows.
Yes.
Betty had 3 of her own shows, Jeff B.
Mm-hmm.
She, we're not getting actors like this anymore. I mean, she grew up in a very different era, a very different time, a very different culture. In fact, I would not be surprised if she did not quite get the culture that Hollywood had became. Or maybe she just got too old and stopped caring about it. But she managed to just still bring love, warmth, and joy in what she did. Whether it was a Hallmark movie, whether it was a TV show, whether it was a show she hosted, whether it was a game show. She managed to transcend decades and generations. I mean, literally 3 generations grew up on Betty White. It's crazy. You think about it sometimes when you think about an actress like this, and you're like, you remember her, but then you're like, oh, she was out for a while. But like I said, when it comes to Betty White, she's one of those few. There's really nothing I think fans or even other actors have an unkind word to say. I mean, I really can't think of anything. One of the things I did learn, guys, was something she said I found it very, very beautiful. One of the reasons she stayed in TV so long was because of her true passion, which is something we haven't talked about, which was she was an animal lover. All the time she got to visit those zoos and got to see the animals. She became, I believe we touched on a little bit, she wanted to be a park ranger, but, at the time, women couldn't be park rangers. But she never lost that passion. I mean, I even watched an interview where she said the reason why she keeps working in film is to continue that passion. So she had a reason why. I mean, she still gave it her all, but the whole point was she wanted her money to go to, what her passion was, which was animals. And
Mhm.
it was a very beautiful thing to read about her love of animals, because she never came off as a PETA person. She came off as someone who loved animals, loved what they were, and wanted to do everything she could to, be a good human to
She
animals.
she always had dogs. Like there's
Yes.
Yes.
pictures of her from like the 50s with her and dogs.
Yeah. Her last dog, I think, died in 2016. Her golden retriever, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I didn't even read up on the pets she had. I can imagine she probably had a zoo at times.
Oh yeah, she had that set of children because her husband, Alan London, gave her the choice. You can be a housewife kind of thing, or you can have a career. She chose to have a career.
Yeah, well, her
What,
children were her animals, and I mean,
were,
Exactly.
she did some amazing things. I mean, but like I said, one of the great things about Betty White was she was what we don't see a lot in Hollywood, humbled.
Yes.
And when she had her passion, she focused on it and knew what her reason why she was doing her job. I mean, honestly, the way read the way I saw some of the interviews is it's almost like acting was secondary to her. It was a means to an end. She wanted to take care of pets, animals. She wanted to help them. So this was how she did it, through her job, because her job paid her money to do it. I mean, that to me is truly a beautiful story of a very wonderful woman.
who was
I
about
mean,
to turn
how often?
100?
Well, I mean, think about it. How often do you really hear about the passions of other actors? What are they really doing? And I mean, normally it's same bullshit, mundane, vanilla crap. She was like, I just want to take care of pets. She was simple. She had a plan, she had a desire, she had a passion, and she tackled it, and she made a choice and said, hey, if my acting is going to pursue making life better for animals, what better way than to do it this? I have nothing but respect for that, as especially as an animal lover, because I got 3 dogs, 2 cats, and 3 guinea pigs. I got a little bit of a zoo.
All I have is a pet rock.
It'll grow. It'll grow.
The rock?
You know what I mean. We'll have our own little zoo. We already said we want a penguin, so.
Yeah. First things we're getting is a penguin.
Yes.
Is that even legal in California?
Why do you think I'm moving out? I'm just kidding.
I've been trying to talk you out of moving out of California for years. I think 2 years now I've been trying to get you out of there.
He hadn't met me.
Hey, what do you want me to do? I can only do so much. I'm only a guy. All right, folks. So before we call it, because we're hitting about 50 minutes, Alicia, final thoughts, the life and times of Betty White.
She was definitely an icon. I mean, as a female, I definitely looked up to her. I love her and her respect, especially her relationship with her late husband, Alan. I look up to that a lot. So yeah, she was definitely a pioneer. She's going to be sorely missed, but hopefully I can be like a Betty White, be a pioneer and say, okay, you don't like what I'm doing. So what? If you like what I'm doing, okay, that's fine. So yeah, she's going to be missed.
Yes, she will. Jack, final thoughts on the life and time of the icon Betty White.
What a ride. What a grand life that she did. You know, I wish I could have lived a fraction of that life. Just her experiences, like just being on radio, being on television, commercials, eventually just becoming an icon. Wonderful life, and it was a long-lived life too. So
My final thoughts on the life of Betty White is based on everything I researched, which I learned more about her than I ever knew, is she really was a trailblazer in a lot of ways in radio, in film, and both game shows and television and everything. I mean, she always knew how to stay with the times. She could keep up. I mean, even at 90 something years old, I know she died at 99, but I mean, she would do rap videos with people. She knew how to stay. She learned how to stay relevant and with the times, but still stay true to her roots and who she was and what she was trying to achieve. That will always be one of the most beautiful things I'll ever remember about Betty White. And yeah, I was on a fucking panel New Year's Eve, and we heard Betty White pass, and I had to leave the channel. I had to leave. I actually started crying. I don't cry for celebrity deaths very often. Very often. The last time I cried about anybody dying was honestly Chester Bennington of the band. Not the band, sorry, but
I know what you're talking
Lincoln
about.
Park.
Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park. Yeah. When Chester Bennington died, I was gutted because Chester Bennington was one of the greatest voice. I would say I would compare that to when Chris Cornell died from Soundgarden and Audio Slave.
Yeah.
I remember I was down in Florida going to Welcome to Rockville, and Soundgarden was there. And then 2 weeks later, they were at another show, and that was the show Chris Cornell afterwards committed suicide. And I remember, seeing my father and my stepfather afterwards. Next time we went to a concert, he wore an Audio Slave shirt. I mean, and people were talking to him, and you could feel the pain. They were like, they missed him so much, and I was like, Chester Bennington to me was one of the greatest vocal voices I had ever heard in my life. I mean, he was the last they had the last CD I ever bought. Physical media was theirs. And then they put out a new one. And then unfortunately, shortly after he passed away, I was gutted. And this is only the second time I've been that gutted, was losing Betty White. It was just, it's heartbreaking. I mean, I understand. Look, I get it. She was 99. She lived a great life. She had, like you said, Jeff, I wish I could have lived a fraction of her life, of what she was able to accomplish. I mean, she just did so many amazing things and was fortunate to be 99, but she was such a pioneer, such a fucking force of, as I call her literally a force of nature when you really think about it. She just had that positive energy that just, and she was always, so humble. Even though she was a force of energy, she was so humble in her accepting awards. Like, she almost didn't feel like she deserved them. Like, when she said, I should be thanking you guys, when she was doing the, I think it was the Americans People's Choice Awards. I could be wrong. But, she's like, I should be thanking you. And it's like, what does that take now? Because you don't see that nowadays. You don't see that humbleism, that thank you for enjoying my work. I mean, Betty White basically was one of those bastions of people like, thank you for liking what I do. I mean, she said it so simply. Thank you. We don't get a lot of that. It's like, we get a lot of actors now who think we should be thanking them for what they're doing. It's like, no, that's not how this shit works. Betty White understood that the only reason she made it as long as she did is because people wanted to see her. And they wanted her on, a channel. And she understood that. Now, she stood her ground when she felt she was right. And yes, unfortunately, paid the price for that. But I mean, you can't help but not respect someone who says, I'll put my own career on the line for what I know is right. There's a lot of people who won't do that even now. They won't put their career on the line for what's right. I know what it's like to put my career on the line for what I believe is right. And I think that's what she did. And I have nothing but mad respect for Betty White and what she achieved. Also, I'm going to finish out this before I do the outro. I have no doubt that in probably a couple of years, we're going to see a Hallmark film either on Betty White's life or on her life in the Golden Girls. But I see those coming because I can't believe that nobody's not going to do a film to tribute Betty White. Now,
there is a documentary from 2018 on Netflix.
Now, my question is this. If anyone was going to pay Betty White, who do you guys think should do it? Yeah, I've been in the same boat too. I haven't been able to figure that one out.
I got chew on that one.
Yeah. Ask us again next week.
Yeah, we'll have to think about it. Trust me, I've been stewing on that one for 2 days and I still haven't figured it out. Who could play Betty White? I'm like, I've been doing that. I've been chewing my gums. I'm like, I don't think I can.
No, she's irreplaceable, unfortunately.
No, she's absolutely irreplaceable. All right, everyone. We're coming up on the 1 hour mark. Alyssa AVP, Jack Beers, myself, MB Geek. We thank you all for coming in, talking history of film, honoring a legend, an icon, in my mind, a national treasure, Betty White. And with that, folks, you have a peaceful day.
Bye-bye.